So welcome everybody to the panel called Monetary Reform Transforming Our Public Policy.
Monetary transformation for people, planet, and peace.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks.
In the ecology stage.
At the ecology stage. Go ahead and introduce yourself first, Brian.
Okay, my name is Brian Lamble. I am Missouri Green Party, Kansas City, Western Eco-Socialist Political Organization. I'm the outreach chair. Shout out to Matthew, who is also from the Missouri Green Party. You'll ask a question at some point, right? Yeah. Okay. You're on the record now. That's me, Brian.
What brought you to this issue?
Oh boy.
I mean,
we'll get into that. No,
okay.
We'll I'll say I joined the Green Party the day after Election Day in November of 2024. Yeah, okay. It was my first time voting for Jill and the Green Party, and I thought that I felt like such a dope when Trump won because I didn't think he was going to win, and then he won, and I was like, of course he's going to win. What was I thinking? Of course he was going to win, and so immediately that very next day was like, okay, what have I been waiting for?
Very cool.
So here I am.
Very cool.
Your turn, Mary.
I am Mary Sanderson from Wisconsin, and I've worked with the Green Party Banking and Monetary Reform Committee since.
Mary, come over here so they can see you. They can't see you from there.
Let me just. I'll get in front of the camera later.
All right.
We want to move
camera
along.
shy.
We want to move along here. Yeah. I had things in my childhood that just left me with a lot of questions about how money and politics and everything. I was confused. One rich grandpa and one poor grandpa, and the rich grandpa, whatever, he didn't care that the poor grandpa was probably going to lose his land in 1933, the family farm and whatnot. So those are the questions I grew up with. And so in 2017, when I met these people who have been studying how money works and our particular money system, which is a few hundred years old, goes along with European colonization and whatnot. And they understood the mechanism behind the constant concentration of money, wealth, and power. I got all excited, and I've been excited about it since then. And Kevin, please introduce yourself.
I'm Kevin McCormick from Texas. Hold on. You know, there was something terribly wrong. And so I found out about monetary reform and have been learning about, our present system and monetary reform ever since. So obviously something needs to change. That's what we're here for.
I came to monetary reform because I have several $100,000 of law school debt.
Oh.
It's that simple. Yeah, law school. Yeah, I went to law school here in Chicago. I'm from Kansas City. I lived in Chicago, and I went to Chicago Kent. I graduated in 2009. You may remember the global financial crisis.
Oh.
I had 3 years worth of deferments, and then Barack Obama's administration said, start paying us money back. And I'm like, how am I supposed to do that? I don't have a job. Like, anyway, you get it. Everybody gets it. Yeah. Also, several good books. The Web of Debt, The Money Mafia. What's the AMI? What's the title of the AMI book?
The Lost Science of Money.
Yeah, The Lost Science of Money. And The Creature from Jekyll Island. Also great books.
We should put those in the chat.
Yeah, we will. Somebody will. Okay, so let's go.
Let's
actually get into it now. Let's get into
it. If everybody can hear me, I'm going to start with the hardest part. Raise your hand.
Speak into the mic.
Your little online hand or your human hand. If you feel like humanity has a visible path forward toward caring and thriving. Okay, I got some hands. Five here in the room.
Maybe another way to pose that question is, do you think that there are ideas circulating?
That's the next question.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Didn't mean to step on you.
Okay.
Mary, come over here so they can see you. Come over here so they can see you on camera. You're just this disembodied voice.
Okay. All right. So a few people in this room have not lost all hope. That's wonderful. Now raise your hand if you still love the aspiration that our great, 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 great grandparents had in the 18th century for true self-government. True self-government. Anybody in favor? Yeah, in favor. Yeah. Okay. Now, do you know effective steps that we can take in that direction? What are things that we as citizens or we as countries can do to get there? The reason we're here is because we have one good idea that we want to promote. Humanity seems to be headed in this bad direction. The virtuals can't hear anything?
I think we got it straightened out. Yeah, Kevin talked to us about it, and I think we got it straightened out. Nobody has said anything since then.
So we're here to talk about this one particular thing. It's not an easy thing, and it's not the only thing by far to do if we mean to save ourselves from possible extinction and to get back to that sweet aspiration for true self-government without, the feudal lords and the whatever. So, greening the dollar, monetary reform, it doesn't fix things by itself. It would provide the money for healthy priorities instead of just for war, like the current bank's credit system does. We pretty much love this gig today because the Green Party uniquely has monetary reform in our platform for candidates to use. Every candidate's Medicare for All program gets challenged by a sneer. How are you going to pay for it? Democrats and Republicans are stuck selling these warmed over ideas. Tax the rich and stop the wars. No matter how you dress them up, these proposals have always failed us. It's been going on for way too long. So we need to talk about why, and we need a solution that works. And that's our thing. Republicans and Democrats are not allowed to shine a light on the special power that banks have to control the entire money supply. Green candidates can stand out by calling BS on the Federal Reserve debt money system because we offer proven monetary reform legislation that puts the power of the purse back in the hands of the people's government. So Kevin or Brian
Hi.
might want to say more about any of that, about possibly how the current system stymies every cool project. Then we could take some questions, and then we'll share a little more detail about how monetary reform, Green Party monetary reform, changes the balance of power.
Okay.
Kevin or Brian?
I got it. Okay. So the origin story of this presentation was Howard Schweitzer and the how can you pay for a trap? Like, we're on the ecology stage, but really we're trying to talk to candidates, and we have a candidate here. So we're speaking directly to you, Michael Dublin. Anybody else? Anybody else a candidate right now? Oh, great. Oh, perfect. Great. You're going to be quizzed at the end of this presentation. All right. So the idea is, of course, we say, oh, Medicare for all, Green New Deal, reparations. And the answer from the establishment is, well, how do we pay for it? Well, okay. So back to what I was saying. The establishment says, how do you pay for it? Obviously, they never say, how do you pay for it when we're going to war? Never once, right? Well, so why? What's the difference? The question is power. The people, when they ask, how do you?
Okay. I'm going to try to pick up where Brian was, and he was saying that it's a question of power. Okay. The idea of how can you pay for it is a debate tactic. And the real question is, what do we want to do? So when we think about how can we pay for it, All right, so the question of how can we pay for it is a debate technique. Okay, it's a negotiating technique to throw you off. So if we think about what happens with Congress, we have every 2 years this budget, or every year this budget crisis that comes up. And, well, gee, we have to cut Medicare, we have to cut Social Security, we can't afford to fix the environment, we can't do any of this, but we do need money for defense, we need money for corporate subsidies and things like that. So Congress passes this budget. And then the budget goes to the Treasury Department, and the Treasury Department collects the taxes and they write checks from that. And then if they don't have enough money, which they never do have enough money, they issue Treasury bonds. And the banking financial sector buys the Treasury bonds, or the Federal Reserve buys the Treasury bonds. And now all the checks are the Treasury writes all the checks and everything's paid for. So basically, the process in a nutshell is that Congress passes a budget and the Treasury writes the checks to pay for it. So how can we pay for it is the same way that it's paid for now, all the time. The difference with monetary reform is that instead of issuing Treasury bonds, the federal government would exercise the powers in the Constitution, and Congress would create the money. So there would be no added debt.
Okay, let me take that.
Go ahead.
So what Kevin was just talking about are the mechanics of monetary creation in this country, right? And it boils down to this one simple point. The Congress is constitutionally empowered to create money. In 1913, the Federal Reserve Act was passed, and that effectively usurped their power, because as of the Federal Reserve Act, Congress passes bills, appropriations, direct spending, but then they have to sell it to the Federal Reserve, which then distributes that money to various banks, initially through the Federal Reserve banks, St. Louis, Kansas City, Denver, New York. Where are the other? San Francisco. What am I missing? What'd you say? Atlanta. Is there one in Atlanta? Yeah, that makes sense. So it was a funneling system of a central bank, right? So go back to the central debate in the founding of our country, Hamilton versus Jefferson, a strong central government with a central bank versus a more federated system. I mean, well, I don't want to get into too much of history and make myself sound bad, but states issued their own script. States had their own currency. And then we became a federal system with a strong central bank, more or less. Up to the World War I, there was still a lot of regional and statewide script being issued. There were panics, there were runs, there was no uniformity. So Federal Reserve System came in because the robber barons of the era, Vanderbilts, Morgans, Paul Warburg, et cetera, realized that they were losing out on these regional script. So they centralized everything. The Federal Reserve Bank came into existence. It all got funneled through the Federal Reserve via the issuance of treasuries. So the Congress passes an appropriations bill or a spending bill, and then the money doesn't go straight to whoever was in the budget. It goes to the Federal Reserve, and they have to create treasuries, treasury notes, Federal Reserve notes, which then is bought on the open market committee, the BOMC, right? Banking Open Market Committee, by private banks. And so they have private banks on our currency get interest. So that was a super long-winded way of saying, when we create money, we're charging ourselves interest. Think about how backwards that is and how truly genius it is for the robber barons of the era to say, oh, we don't like this confederated monetary creation system state by state. Like, we want a central bank. And everybody's like, yeah, actually this system's bad when it's kind of a mishmash of states. We'll just sneak in this little gotcha by centralizing the system, but then requiring them to pay on treasury bonds via interest. Does that make sense? it's so ludicrous and absurd that it sounds like that's not how it works, but that's it. It's that simple and it's that insidious.
How many people here already knew that
Sorry,
the
I'm
money
in the
is
way.
created by bank lending? Okay, that's beautiful.
Good,
10
good.
years ago, people didn't know it. After '08, there became a lot of interest in figuring this out. And I'm delighted to see. Online, I didn't see the hands that went up or not, but yippee. Michael, you have a question. Let me say for the people online, Michael Dublin is running for Senate in North Carolina, and he is running on monetary reform, among other important issues.
Well, thank you for teaching me the history as a history teacher. I appreciate that. No, I'm not. I'm serious. Okay, all right. So, um, the robber barons, of course, they would want to do it because they would make more money, but somebody in the government had to go along with that plan. So, who were the couple parties to go along with that plan?
That's a good question.
That's a fantastic question.
There's a good story, one of the books that Brian mentioned, you might have seen, called the Jekyll Island.
Yeah, the creature from Jekyll Island.
It goes into detail about how hard the bankers worked, the top dozen or so, worked to get that law written and passed. And they had to pay a lot of people.
Including.
And they had to pay a lot of people, and they had to schedule it for the vote for Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And a lot of things went into our Congress subcontracting control of the money system to the banks. It had been fought hard through the whole previous history of our country until that moment. So, Kevin, what do you want to throw in here?
Can I add real quick on the history of that? Including William Jennings Bryan. Does anyone know that name? He was the progressive monetary reformist of the late 1800s, like the late 19th century going into the early 1900s. And he even voted for it. I mean, there's no claim that he was bought off, but there was a lot of negotiating. And to his dying day, he regretted that vote. He regretted it because he knew instantly what had happened.
And fast talking, a lot of.
Yeah.
And even Wilson, who signed it and thought it was great,
yeah,
it seemed like a good idea at the time. He later said that he regretted it and it had been a terrible mistake, President Wilson.
Yeah.
So I want to ask Kevin to come back in, but first I want to emphasize what he said in his first remarks, which I appreciated very much. The whole difference that we are asking for here. Still, Congress will make a budget. Still, the Treasury will write the checks. But instead of those checks being based on borrowing through issuing bonds, those checks the Treasury writes will be based on the federal government issuing the money that is needed to do the things we need. Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, one thing that we haven't really touched on and that people don't think about in this because they're focused on the money, what is the agenda? What is the agenda of the person or the entity, the institution that creates the money? What is the agenda of the Wall Street banking cartel versus what would the public agenda of Congress be? This is where you're going to see the different effects. Congress has to be responsive to the voters. And when you realize that it's really Congress that is really dealing with the money, people would be, and also Congress could do a lot more for the public to win votes. It's much better for them to do that way. But the key thing here is to understand that the person issuing money, they don't just do it for fun. They have a plan. They have an agenda. They're using that power for their own benefit. And this is one of the problems that we have now. A lot of the problems of working families and working people are very similar to the old problems way back when in Victorian England and stuff, when people were victimized by usury, which is excessive interest and abuse of money, and money being spent for the empire and the whole country being taxed and galvanized for the empire instead of for the country's own well-being. So the agenda of who issues the money is a very important aspect of this that it's kind of in the background, but anyway, that would be my 2 cents to kind of follow up on what Mary has said and Brian.
Oh, in the NEED Act, in what we propose.
Yeah, okay, so this is a good segue. So the
I'll-
policy prescription that Mary alluded to at the beginning is called the NEED Act, and she's going to go ahead and explain the difference between debt-created money as it currently stands and sovereign money.
I'm going to do the quickest part. The NEED Act is not such a complicated bill that you can't read it, and it's available easily online. I have QR codes to it at the table. No, an important feature of the NEED Act is that bank lending new money the way they do now, that accounting practice would be ended. They would no longer be able to legally just write in their asset count your debt and then put some money in your, they would no longer be able to do it. And that's in the NEED Act purposely because there have been historical cases where people tried to fix the money system and they said, well, the banks can still do, like with the greenbacks. The Lincoln Congress issued greenbacks, federally issued money to pay the soldiers and whatnot, but they did not make it illegal for the banks to continue doing what they were already doing. And over time, the banks just bought up the greenbacks and took them out of circulation.
Yeah.
So that can happen, and that's the reason that the proposal now says that that accounting practice will end. It will be called counterfeit if some bank tries to do it, and there will be legal consequences. It will just stop. Bank issuing of new credit will stop. That's one of the three parts of the NEED Act.
The other important component, and briefly there was a question in the chat that said, why can't Congress repeal a mistake? That's the NEED Act repeals and unwinds the Federal Reserve, like full stop, like no Federal Reserve.
Well, there is, but it won't be issuing the bonds.
No, like it
gets taken into the Treasury Department because the Federal Reserve
Yeah.
has a lot of functions besides just issuing bonds. They are the payment system between the banks. They keep a lot of statistics about who does what, when, and what the needs are. And all that is valuable bureaucracy that will go into the Treasury so that it is managed by someone accountable to the public, not by secret bankers.
Well, and it's a great point, Mary, because it does get subsumed, but the way that it functions is completely unwound right now. So it probably wouldn't even be called the Federal Reserve anymore at that point because it will be subsumed by the Treasury. I mean, the thing about the Federal Reserve is that it's neither federal nor a reserve, right? It's not. It's a conglomeration of private banks. That's it. And the reason that like defenders of the Federal Reserve will say, well, in the Federal Reserve Act, there's a proportion of interest that's supposed to go back to the Treasury. Like, okay, so how does that make it federal? Like at best, that's a public-private partnership, but it's not federal. It's not exclusively public, right? So anyway, so it being subsumed by the Treasury will essentially, if you can call it whatever, you could call it the Easter money at that point. It will not be the Federal Reserve as it exists now in the NEED Act. And one other point about the NEED Act, it was first introduced into Congress by Dennis Kucinich 15 years ago, 2011. So this is not like some pie in the sky thing that the Green Party dashed off in the last year. Like this has been going.
Yeah,
oh, that was you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
I was like, what?
Not some cool guy's great idea. No,
yeah. No, it's been
it has
around
a
for a long time.
long history in our country and in the world.
Yeah. Okay.
Kevin might want to add something here or tell us where we're going.
Thanks, Mary. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So I think we've touched on the basics, but what we need to do now is concentrate on how do we talk about this? How can Green Party candidates talk about this? And you get the question, well, how are you going to pay for it? Well, we've already answered that question in that you pay for it the same way that Congress pays for everything, except with the big difference that we're not going to create debt because we now are exercising the constitutional authority to coin money and regulate the value thereof. Okay. And so then you come to these programs like Medicare for All and the Green New Deal. And won't these be tremendously inflationary? Won't this mess up everything? Won't this cause all these problems? Well, the answer is no, it won't cause problems. It will solve problems. The first thing, let's talk about Medicare for all. The worldwide experience of a central government funded healthcare system is that you get better healthcare and it costs about half as much as the insurance system that we have here in the United States. So that's not inflation, that is reducing the amount of money that people need. Okay. That's one thing. So we don't need to. Then the second point is like the Green New Deal. Well, it came out. I remember when Jill Stein was first running for president, and she was talking about the Green New Deal and very dramatically saying that this was a World War II mobilization, that we had to do all this stuff, and it was just going to be some tremendous operation. But people at that time were not clear on what would we do. And I think it really boils down to building a renewable energy infrastructure and changing agricultural and transportation, agricultural practices so that they are less polluting and not less, and restoring agriculture, and then transportation so that we get off of driving cars everywhere. We have more public transportation and also electric vehicles and stuff like that. But the effect of these things, as we see them come out in the economy, and as you start thinking about this, these actually reduce spending. It costs less money. Yes, it's expensive to build solar panels, wind turbines, electric vehicles, all that stuff. But once you've got them, the fuel is free. The operating costs are so much less than what we have with the fossil fuel industry that that we are absolutely saving money across the board. So the business that this is going to require all this massive inflationary spending and huge activity is completely false. It's not well, I say completely false, but it's not an accurate picture of what we should reasonably expect. So we need to consider that. And then the other thing is the federal
wait.
debt would stop growing. Okay. Yes,
Kevin.
Mary?
Can you save the other thing until we do a little bit more about this thing? This is
Yes.
an
But I
important
did want to
thing.
get in, stuff about candidates, but right. Over to you, Mary.
Because the NEED Act that the Green Party platform supports, another specific thing about it is that the money will be managed on purpose to not be inflationary. So a monetary authority of public servants who are not attached to private banks will do all the statistics like the Federal Reserve does, but they'll do it with public purpose in mind. And they'll suggest to Congress, how much money could our economy productively absorb next year? What is the good amount of money? Not looking for inflation, not looking for deflation. We're looking for that cup of coffee you buy for $1.50 this year is going to be the same $1.50 in 10 years. The idea that money shouldn't be this variable, somebody's juicing it all the time. It's a measuring stick. And so that's in the bill, that the money will be managed to be non-inflationary or deflationary. Go ahead, Brian, and then back to Kevin.
That is a super important point, and the mechanism is particularly important because right now, raise your hand if you know how the Federal Reserve combats inflation. Interest rates, that's it. How is that working for us? It's not. You have to tether. Mary used the perfect verb for it, absorb. Do we have enough productivity in our economy to absorb the money that's in the system? Taxation is just ostensibly a method to pull money out of the system to reduce inflation because there's too much money chasing too few goods. The monetary authority will take kick the interest rate mechanism to the curb, to the dustbin, because it never worked. It was totally a scheme. It was, we'll get into this, the illusion.
Scam. Did you say a scheme or a scam?
Well, both. We'll get in a second to the illusion of scarcity, which is part of the interest rate boondoggle. But the monetary authority will peg the quantity of money in the system to the productive capacity of the economy at the time. And not just the capacity, but the product that's in the system, right? If there's it's an equilibrium between the money that's in the system and the goods and services that the money can fungibly transact for, right? I mean, and that's, well,
Cool.
I could keep going, but go
Cool.
ahead.
I am eager for the candidates in the room, Michael and others, right now if you
Yeah,
want.
anytime you
but
want,
I
raise
do-
your hand and the
We
mic.
do want to hear what candidates are seeing that like are questions about this that we can help with. And then we're going to go back to Kevin for the next thing.
Mary.
But I have been studying this, and I just wonder, like, okay, so it's 15 years ago. Have we looked at it and thought? Have we looked at it and thought this NEED Act is something that we just need to pick up? The Democrats fumble it, and we're gonna pick up the ball and run with it, or have we looked at it and said, you know, made improvement? We want to tweak this and tweak that and make it our own instead of just saying, "Oh, we're picking up the NEED Act from the Democrats and running with it," because you know what I'm saying. So
I didn't could you say it again, please?
I mean, is it ready to go? Are we still just gonna pick up the NEED Act as it was put in place and saying, okay, the Democrats fumbled it, they're not using it, we're gonna pick it up and run with it? Or have we looked at it and said, okay, we like this, but we're gonna tweak this, tweak this, tweak this?
That is another great question, Michael. The NEED Act is still there as it was written in 2011, and it's still what the Green Party refers to, talking about monetary reform, because people know about it. But in this meantime, where people have been studying and figuring out, other organizations have come along. Well, there's one, the American Monetary Institute was before the NEED Act. They did a lot of the research. But in 2018, an organization around the same monetary reform ideas, the three pillars, was born of 501c3 to educate on purpose. And one task that it's called the Alliance for Just Money, one task they took up was to review the 2011 legislation and see if there need to be any changes. Okay, there are no changes in the guts of it, the three things that the legislation does. However, at the beginning of every bill, there's all this talk about why we need it and blah, blah, blah. And in 2011, it was, we need jobs. And it was a different world. And so they did rewrite the introduction and the reasons why it's needed. The NEED Act is needed. And they renamed it for they didn't make it up. It came from a bill that was just like the NEED Act as well. Before the NEED Act, the one that the Alliance for Just Money put out is called American Monetary Reform Act of 2026.
2026?
Yes, it's your basic,
Oh, nice.
maybe 25, but
No, go ahead. Yeah.
they worked on it in 25, and I think they put 26 on the name. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So it's easy to find. When you come to our table, we'll help you. So it's like 30 pages. This is not one of these kind of bills they put through Congress that who read that? Come on. This is 30 pages. Anybody can read it. So short answer, yes, there is an update. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Kevin.
Yes, okay,
no,
I
he's
have to
pressing
do,
buttons.
I have to do a little pop-up instead of my icon. Okay, now I do want to mention another thing too. And people who are listening to a candidate, you know, they're concerned, oh, you're talking about the monetary system. That's a big deal. I don't understand it, but if you change it, what could happen to me? And so people are very worried about, you know, something adverse, because change oftentimes brings problems. So it's very important in the NEED Act, the transitional makes almost no difference to people, because the only thing they would see is that their Federal Reserve notes have become United States notes, but their bank accounts would all work exactly the same. Their checking account, their savings account, everything, it all works exactly the same. The difference, again, goes back to the agendas. The banking cartel creates money from debt. So they create the debt and they create the deposits, and you spend the deposits, and that's the money. But they only create money when they can get a payment stream, a repayment stream. So things like social benefits, protecting the environment, fighting against poverty, urban renewal, these kind of social programs, and education in particular, these kind of social programs that we need There's no payment stream. There's no collateral. How do the banks make a loan for that and get paid? Well, they don't have a question. They don't see how to do it. And so they say we can't make any kind of these investments. And so you might have heard about the social, environmental, and governmental loans that,
SGC.
yeah, that one, right. And how BlackRock started out being enthusiastic for it, but then they got so much pushback from the Republicans and the fossil fuel industry and other people that they finally said, oh, no, we won't do it. In fact, I live in Texas, and the Texas legislature, Republican legislature, made it illegal for the retirement fund to invest in any ESG. So,
Wait a minute, Kevin.
Yes.
The ESGs, I thought it was just some. I thought it was just some like goody things that companies had to do to get some kind of certification as you're a good company. But you're talking about investment and the Texas legislature saying no.
No, people were promoting things like windmill farms, solar panels, electric vehicles, the energy transition, and also environmental restoration type, alternative agriculture programs, stuff like that. And corporations were trying to get, startup companies, and people were trying to get investments to fund these things. And they had some success at first, but then the whole concept was rejected. Oh. So, but simply because you don't have the collateral, you don't have the pieces that the banks, the lenders need if they're going to do it like that. So there's no money. It's not that the banks, there's something, we're upset with the banks for controlling things with the money power, but ordinarily, a bank that makes a loan, they want to know how they're going to get paid back. So
for them, it has to be an income stream.
Right.
With sovereign money, that will go away.
This is why it's so important for social programs and for environmental programs and things like that, is because you don't have that restriction that you have to have some kind of payment stream set up, because the benefit to society, the overall increase of wealth and well-being, it's like public education. We spend all this money on education. How are we going to get it back? How are the kids? Well, now they want to try to have student loans and all that. They've been doing that. But how do you get it back for primary school and for high school? Well, you get it back because you have an educated citizenry that is infinitely more productive than a citizenry that can't read or write, that's not literate, that doesn't understand basic things. So that's where it comes from.
Happier people?
Yeah, healthier, happier people. God. Right. It just works so much better, but there's nobody to make payments, you see? And that's why you can't have that with the current monetary system. That's one of the main reasons. What are the motivations?
Essentially what Kevin is saying is that our system is a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
If you understand a Ponzi scheme requires inputs from underneath to perpetuate itself. I mean, it's a hot air balloon that constantly needs an influx of hot air. Well, that influx of hot air is debt-created money. You strip away the debt, you strip away the ethos, the capitalist ethos, because think about it. Bankers lending out at ratios of 5-to-1, 8-to-1, 12.5-to-1, 20-to-1. That's capitalist monetary creation. I mean, they are capitalists. They're capitalists in the monetary sphere, right?
What do you mean? Is 6-to-1, 12-to-1? What is that?
Leverage ratio.
Oh, so the leverage.
Yeah, their reserves, they can loan on those reserves at 5-to-1, 8-to-1, 12.5-to-1, 20-to-1, depending on various. So, I mean, that's how liquidity.
Reserves isn't even a thing anymore.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. And that's how we get liquidity in the system, right? It's all just private bankers making money. And that is capitalist ethos. They have the means of production of money. Like, it's not means of production for a car or for X or Y. Yeah, you want to come up? Tell
my name is Robert Gross. I'm running for mayor in Washington, D.C. And thank you guys. I actually wonder, in that same sense about like cryptocurrency, because in the last, what was it, 5 years, or with this new administration, they started to kind of make it into stable coins, and other countries have been talking about trading with the U.S. That's fully decentralized, and it is something that is relatively incredibly difficult to kind of. I'm sorry, and it's something that is incredibly difficult to kind of inflate. So I just wonder, like, how do you feel as though that would come into play within the next, I guess, decade or so within this
I'll
whole
say-
concept?
I'll
Thank
say
you guys for
one,
your
I'll
time.
say one sentence about it and then I'll pass it on. The question to me is not interesting about what role crypto will play. Crypto wants to play a big role, but it's mostly it's a speculative investment. It's become a speculative, and it's not money that you can buy groceries with. They say they will, but yeah, whatever. Okay, that's one thing I want to say about it. And the other thing I want to say about it is it's still private money. It's privately created. Somebody's making money off it. It's going to be extracted one way or another in that way. It's not an obligation of a democratically elected government to provide a means of exchange for the people to use. It's not that. Let me let the other guys answer, then you might want to have a comeback. Go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a couple of things about Bitcoin and stuff like that. One, there's like, I think the statistic is 3% of the Bitcoin owners own 97% of the Bitcoin. So you're putting yourself, if you go with that, you're putting yourself in a very disadvantageous position because you have this tiny little bit of wealth and they have this enormous amount of wealth. And so they're going to win in any kind of competition. But the second point about it is these stable coins and crypto finance schemes have not worked and they will never work because they're about getting dollars. They're about getting dollars. They're not
You have to
about
buy
getting
them.
right. And
You have to buy them with dollars.
right.
They're
And but
backed by dollars.
it's not just buying them with dollars. It is the speculation thing of it. But also political competition to control money is just something that is a constant given in any governmental situation. And the cryptocurrency is a very sophisticated scheme, but its idea is really parallel to the Federal Reserve and the banking financial elites controlling the money. The crypto people want to come in and supplant the banking financial elites. And again, it's not a democratic thing. The money is owned by their crypto money is owned by a few people, and it's like, well, anyway, I think I've made my point clear, and that just reinforces what Mary says. It's not a democratic monetary system that the public has influence or control over.
Let me just add one point, and I totally agree with what Kevin just said, supporting what Mary said. Democratically controlled power. Okay. Think about what money is. Think about what it is at its base. Like, rhetorical question or not. Wink and a nod to Michael. What is money? It is power. That's all it is. It's totally a fabrication of society. It doesn't matter if it's gold, if it's wood, if it's water, if it's paper, if it's digital. It's just power. The Federal Reserve note is the most ubiquitous legal contract in the United States, and any money in any system that's backed by a sovereign government, essentially issued by a sovereign entity, is the most ubiquitous legal document in that state because it's backed by the government. It's a transaction that if I give you $5, there's no dispute. And if one of us wants to dispute the value of that $5, we go to the court system. It's a legal document, right? The founders, for all the problems of the United States Constitution, and we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. I'm happy to offline, but one of the genius things that they did is recognize that fundamental characteristic of money, and they put it in the chamber of Congress that was made for the people. They didn't put it in the Senate. They didn't make it an executive function, and the judiciary was not even necessarily a co-equal branch at that point. But they put it in the chamber of the people. They did it for a reason. They understood that money is power. Fundamentally, it is power. Stable coins, cryptocurrency, gold, metal, wood, water, boats, cars, whatever it is, it's just an agreed upon store of value. And it has to be created by the people through their elected representatives.
So I guess my only other, and just so that people can say hi, or I can say hi to the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Whichever one. I guess my only thought about it when it comes to sovereignty is, or at least as an alternative to the Federal Reserve note, if for some reason we can't get this type of bill to be passed, I guess the alternative in my head would be, like you said, each state was making their own currency at one point. You could theoretically still do that with cryptocurrency and say each state has their own coin that is backed or is based off of the stable coin for the USD rather than based off of Bitcoin, which is, as you mentioned, owned by somebody else.
Interesting thought.
And so I just was thinking, because you can mine these coins and you can be a specific person that says, okay, every time every 3 months, if you have an app, you can have mined a coin that says that it is now valued to this much or whatever the case may be.
Mildly,
so I guess that's just
mildly interesting.
Yeah, that's just like my thought process with it is that using the technology we have, and trying to see where we can kind of put it towards, whether or not not to say that we can't get the things that we are saying right now, but just as an alternative to those kind of processes of our financial governments.
We have another question. We have just 10 minutes left, and we want to take your question.
Does this all kind of get into universal basic income and a new tax system?
Okay, you said universal basic income and what other thing?
A new taxation system.
New taxation system. Well,
I don't believe universal basic income is in the NEED Act, but I confess
it is not. But it's something that could be done if everybody agreed they wanted it. The money would be available if democratically people wanted it. Yeah. And regarding taxes?
Well, I was going to say, fundamentally, the question could be, does this lead us to whatever? Because money is the foundation of how we transact with each other, right? Am I speaking into the mic? So it doesn't matter if you say stable coins, reparations, Green New Deal, Medicare for all, universal basic income, transform the light duty infrastructure, mass transit. It all fundamentally depends on a changed economic system. Taxation, the one thing I want to say about taxation, though, and because we use a central currency issued by the federal government, all 50 states use that currency. The states are not sovereign. They don't create their own script right now. To your point about, cryptocurrency or digital currencies, CBDCs, or anything like that, that's not a bad idea. And states and municipalities in years past, particularly in the Great Depression, did create their own money because there was no liquidity back when money was coined in paper. Right now that it's digital, this is my personal hobby horse. I'm a cash guy. I don't like the idea of anything digital. I don't trust that personally. That's just me. I'm not speaking for the BMRC or Mary or Kevin or
you can say that for me.
Okay, great. I'll speak for Mary. But the point is that states do have to tax because they can't create, they could potentially, but if we're all playing in a federally created, a sovereign created currency, the states do need taxation and the municipalities do have to tax to raise their own revenue. So we're talking about money on a base, fundamental, sovereign created level. So it does affect taxation in that way. Like it's taxation on a micro municipality level or a smaller governmental entity level is still an issue. It's not, that won't change. But on the federal level, we have to address the MMT question and the scarcity thing. We have to, because
No.
yeah, because if we're staying in the theme of how do we teach candidates how to answer this question? Does any raise your
John
hand if you
wants to say
understand?
something. We're getting.
Yeah.
I want to hear further from Kevin.
Your 3 points, debt-free money, no more. Why don't you go ahead and say it?
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
more fractional reserve banking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone
we kind of touched
online,
on it, but
someone online wants
That was Eugene.
Kevin to be a wrapper-upper here.
that was Eugene. Yeah.
Sorry. I was going to say a simple thing about taxing. In this system, the government needs to tax in order to get money to pay for stuff. Under the NEED Act, the government will pay for stuff as needed without the need for tax.
Yeah.
Taxes could be used in case sometime there was inflation and so it was too much money. Taxes could be used to just take some money out nicely without hurting people.
Or hoarding wealth.
Pardon me?
Or billionaires hoarding wealth. People hoarding
that's
wealth.
a different thing. No, taxes would have a different purpose. People can't hear you.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but we're down to
capital
time so
gains
much.
taxes, wealth taxes. Yeah.
Or whatever kind of, yeah. Kevin, do you want to wrap up for us? If you're on mute, if
You're
you don't
muted.
come on quickly, I have a nice wrap up ready.
He's still muted. There he is.
Okay, okay. Right. This is a topic that can really go on because it is so ubiquitous. Money is everything in American society. Money is everything, and it's so ubiquitous. It has so many reflections and angles and all that. But I think for monetary reform, the really key point for the voters is number one, the how you pay for it, how you're going to pay for it question is really saying, what do we want to do? The way to answer that is what do we want to do? Because Congress pays for anything it wants to do. So what do we want to do? The second point is that there's no real change for you. The way that money works for you, your bank account, your paycheck, all that, it stays the same. The only difference is U.S. notes instead of Federal Reserve notes. And the third thing is now we can pay for socially beneficial programs. We could fund the environment because we're not having to borrow the money to do it. We create the money to do it. We can pay for education, healthcare, restoring the environment, these social programs, but yet the economy, our society and all that, because another thing we didn't even talk about is the revolving fund in the NEED Act, that the credit system will still be here. Banks are not going to be abolished or anything, but they will have a revolving fund to draw money from. So they will still be making business loans and personal loans. They'll still be doing mortgages and things like that. But the economy will just transition into a more equitable and more democratic scenario with the economy. So I think that would be my conclusion.
Very helpful. Thank you very much. Do we have seconds left, or what do we have left,
5
Tom?
minutes. We have 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
4.5 minutes.
Okay.
It's 5.
Okay. I would speak to some other things before that.
Eugene.
Eugene.
Yes, I would just like to note that Kevin from Texas is the candidate of the Green Party for lieutenant governor. And he is trying to integrate into his campaign the aspects of our platform about changing the money to sovereign money. Over.
Thank you, Gene. Thank you. Yep, that's right. Eugene, did you hear that we had 4 candidates in the room too?
That's wonderful. I was very excited about that. And I'm excited that they wanted to come to this meeting.
Absolutely.
Eugene is a member of our committee, the Making and Monetary Reform Committee.
So,
Oh, and one other thing, and we meet every Thursday for 2 hours. And, we've been thrashing these issues since 2018. So if there are people in the room that are interested, they can apply through their state Green Party to become a member of our committee. Over.
or as candidates, if you want to attend one of our meetings and talk about this and try to work out what
Please
you want
speak
to
up.
say. As candidates, anyone would be welcome to our Thursday meetings to talk about what you want to be able to say on the campaign trail, what you need to say, what kind of questions you are getting. We would welcome that at our meetings.
Do we want to see if there's any final questions?
Yes.
Anybody from the audience have any final thoughts or questions? Yeah,
Go
come on
ahead.
up.
Go ahead,
Come on
but
up.
wait for the mic.
My name's Will. I'm from Maryland. Does this all end with Earth currency?
Maybe someday.
Just like a $1, everybody has the same value of their currency for the whole Earth. Everybody has just equal. Yeah.
Maybe someday. I'll say something.
Are you advocating for it? Yeah. Okay.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So we talked about, Kevin mentioned, it's not so much how we pay for it. Kevin says it's what do we want to do? Well, Congress, these Congresses we've had for a while, they keep paying for war. Is that because we want it? No. In the current system, it's because they're corrupt. It's because the only way to get to Congress is to say yes to the right people and have money for your campaign. And it's a fair argument to say, well, how are we going to get this done, given that level of corruption that we live in, that we're swimming in all the time? And I have an answer for that.
Yeah, good.
We people who want something good for everybody, who want the common good, we're busy doing this, teaching each other, learning more, talking it up. And because the system we've got now, as corrupt as it is, it's reliable for one thing. You trust it. You can trust it to bring more crises. The crises are coming. And as even that one economist we love to hate said, when the crisis comes, the solution will happen quickly. It will be something that's sitting on the shelf. And if we have monetary reform on the shelf, along will come a crisis like '08, or maybe like COVID, where people will be upset enough to go to the trouble to figure out, and we can elect a Congress. We can elect a Congress under those circumstances, brave and tuned in enough, informed and braved enough to pass something big like this that could truly change our futures.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, yeah, we're basically done. Yeah. Yeah, so thanks everybody for coming, everybody online. Lots of great questions. I know I wanted to talk about MMT, but I got overruled, but we can do another we'll do something on the fly at some point. But like Eugene said, please join us, Banking and Monetary Reform Committee every Thursday night. Good conversations. And thanks everyone in the audience for coming. Thanks for your patience with the technical issues at the start. Really appreciate it. Yeah.